Well, Annie Carney is a reporter for Politico, and she's been following the Democratic race. Let's talk a little bit about this. Now, Bernie Sanders is still falling behind in terms of delegates, about 700, but he's got a lot of momentum. He's won in a number of the states leading up to this one here. So can we talk in terms of a winner and a loser when it comes to last night's debate? What's your take on it?
I think you can. I think that what Bernie Sanders needed to do was to change the dynamics of this New York primary, was to have a knockout blow to really, this was, you know, the New Yorkers vote on Tuesday. This is the last chance, and I don't think he shifted the dynamics of the race last night. He challenged her. He brought a real challenge to her. He had a strong performance, but he didn't get out of the box where he is on the issues that he's talked about. He had her on the defense on the minimum wage, but she really attacked him strongly on guns, and that is an issue that resonates with African-American voters, which is the population he needs to make inroads with, and I didn't see it really changing. I think that he made his supporters happy. She made her supporters happy, but that's not enough for him at this point. When and a new poll this morning has her up 17 points, which is a bigger lead. So I don't think it did what it needed to do for him last night. So in terms of winners and losers, I think that he lost.
And yet, Annie, just a couple of weeks ago, Secretary Clinton seemed to pivot towards the general election, going on the offensive against Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. She's pulled that back a bit. She attempted to do that at the debate last night when she started talking about Donald Trump, but actually, to the moderator's credit, they brought her back to squaring off against Sanders.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this has been a very frustrating experience for her. The fact that he's still here in New York, her home state, where she would have loved to have a big homecoming and to pivot. And she had tried to start doing that after, I think, March 15th. They thought, we're done. And they weren't done. Bernie won 7 out of the 8 nominating contests. And he has drawn her back into, like, bread and butter primary issues, like the minimum wage. She went and attended Cuomo's rally, standing on stage with him, like embracing the $15 minimum wage in New York. That's a primary issue. She'd rather be shifting forward. Like, time is of the essence in a presidential campaign. So he's dragging her back, and he's saying things that they're worried will resonate in a general. Like last night, he was asked about her comment about super predators that she made in the 90s. And he said, it's racist language.
Yes.
I talked to Hugh Hewitt this morning, who said, like, I'm pulling that as a clip that could be used in an attack ad in a general election. So he's softening her up, he's damaging her potentially. And yeah, it's a frustrating experience for them, even though they think they'll win at this point.
And she's in Harlem now.
She's in Harlem right now,
showed those photos of her in Harlem where she needs to make. She seems to have sewn up the African American vote, but that's something that Bernie Sanders needs to do.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, to your point about softening her up, you know, Bernie Sanders says he's going all the way to the convention. This was probably the most heated debate that we've ever seen, and you almost got the sense that they were just a little tired of each other.
Oh, for sure.
You know? and so if we're looking forward to the convention, and there's going to be more interaction like this, even though it might not be a debate, I mean, how damaging could it be to both of them?
I mean, it's not when they were literally shouting over each other last night. So Wolf Blitzer had to, like, get in the middle, like a parent separating 2 kids. Like, I don't think either one of them looks great in that position. So no, it's not helpful. I don't think.
But Annie, but when you see what we've seen on the Republican debate stages, does this rise even? I mean, it's 2 people who feel very passionately about their causes and what they believe in, and they want to get their points across. But you don't see the name calling, the Lion, Ted Cruz,
or
little
like
Marco Rubio. You don't.
That would be funny. Little Bernie.
Little Bernie. You know, you don't see that.
No, you don't see that. And they've taken great pride in drawing that contrast and saying, like, we're having a real debate on the issues. But you see it getting closer to that. Bernie Sanders called Hillary Clinton not qualified to be president last week. That one could say is a pretty strong attack. Lucky for her, she has this New York Daily News editorial that sort of eviscerated Sanders, so she can just quote from that. But she's attacking him too. So I think it's still not, you know, small hands and whatever.
Right.
But it's
whatever, exactly.
it's getting nastier, and it is not the conversation that is helpful to Clinton right now.
All right, let's talk about delegate math. Despite some 700 delegates behind Bernie Sanders, his campaign manager, Jeff Weaver, is optimistic about the path to the nomination. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about that.
You have said that you're going to stay in this race until the end. Does that mean that even if it becomes a near mathematical impossibility for your campaign to get the delegates that you need, you will stay in anyway?
Well, let me just say this. I mean, as a mathematical matter, it looks like neither candidate will get the number of pledged delegates required to clinch the nomination before the convention. Neither candidate will. Even Secretary Clinton, she is not going to have in pledged delegates the number needed. So we're going to go to the convention with a number of pledged delegates, and then we're going to have to talk to the superdelegates. The superdelegates aren't really pledged to anybody, even though TV stations typically put them in somebody's column. They're free to change their vote. They're free to vote for whomever they want. And we're going to make the case that Bernie Sanders is clearly the strongest candidate to beat the Republicans in the fall and to win not just the White House, but to win up and down the ballot.
So what do you make of that? I mean,
He said pledged delegates.
Pledged delegates.
Right. Well, he also made the super delegate argument, which is where they're going to, if they lose New York, I think the new argument will be we need to turn super delegates and telling them the voters don't want Hillary.
Right.
She's won 7 out of the 8 contests. He had 27,000 people in Washington Square Park last night. So the argument would be the people don't want her. Come support us.
Come support Bernie.
And Hillary, but that is a tougher argument. He'd have more luck with that if she couldn't say, I have 2.3 million more votes than you do.
Right.
Right.
So they've been putting pressure on superdelegates. I've talked to someone who getting calls from Bernie people and they say like, it would be more convincing if she didn't have more votes than he did.
Right, for sure.
So it's tough.
Political reporter Annie Carney, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Yeah, it was great.